get a ring light, which I desperately need, unfortunately. But that being said, tonight I wanted to talk about another RPG that I think gets no love. It's another one of those little esoteric games. God, my room is cold. And I'm going to talk about Fantasy Craft. If you've never heard of the craft system, it originates in SpyCraft from Crafty Games, which would then become SpyCraft 2.0, which in 2009 they would put out a fantasy version called Fantasy Craft. It is a versatile system that allows for um, very versatile character creation, versatile magic system, and most interestingly, a versatile monster creation system rather than having a bestiary. Um, it allows you to create your own monsters in a unique way. That being said, so Fantasy Craft is what Fantasy Craft is. It's very much a crunchy system. I will grant it that. Because Fantasy Craft is so crunchy, it winds up with a lot of I, I'm going to use the term. It kind of winds up with a kind of a heavy play style, but that's not a bad thing. Um, in that, if you played a lot of D20, played a lot of 3.x, early Pathfinder, um, it's really good in that it does not require uh, quite as much as those. It definitely is different though in how it creates. Um, so character creation, of course, for this game is kind of standardized. Um, you're going to generate your attributes using a point system. You have an origin rather than just a race. Um, then you're going to have what's called a career level, and then you're going to choose classes. Um, the attributes, like I said, point based. The origin is done by species. Um, so you're going to choose a species first. There are several species in the core book, everything from drakes to humans to dwarves. Uh, Standard kind of fantasy things. Some non-standard, like you can play giants and ogres. They renamed some of the races, like Peck, P-E-C-H instead of Halfling, Saurians, all of that. So, and then humans get, they actually gain a talent group that impacts their ability to be what they are. Um, so, like you can be savage, savvy. You can be hardy, grizzled, uh, and that's the big thing. And then you're going to choose a specialty. Um, Specialties are pretty interesting. That's kind of what you do. It's where you fit in the world. So you get acrobat, adventurer, archers, cleric, dragoon, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to delve too deep into it. It gives you bonus feats, uh, and it gives you all kinds of different things that you get different abilities off of it. Then you get your career level, which is your total level. Uh, it is what's going to determine your attribute dice, your maximum skill rank, any additional abilities you get, bonus feats, all that kind of stuff is all going to come off your career level. Then you have your classes. Classes are actually divided into three categories. You have base classes, you have expert classes, and you have master classes. One of the things with the expert and master classes, there's not a lot of them in the core book. They did put out some things called arms, which are available. I believe still on Drive-Thru RPG. I will look it up in just a second, double check. But I have all this on Drive-Thru RPG because of how I bought it. I don't know if they're still offering it even on there. Um, I, I know they don't really offer it on their website anymore. I believe it's all on Drive-Thru RPG. But those called arms are really good. They add some expert and master classes. They read and they feel exactly like classes would for D&D, honestly. Expert master classes are basically a variant on prestige class. They more refine your base class. So your base classes are things like assassins, burglars, captains. So going through it, I mean, it's pretty simplistic what you're doing as far as building your character. There's a party role called Keeper. There's a class called a Keeper. You have the Lancer, you know, um, and I mean, that's just how it works. That's how they build and how they play. Again, if you played 3.5, you get the idea behind base classes and everything. Um, and that's building a character. Honestly, is how you build a character. Um, and then you choose your feats and all that fun stuff. Uh, and like I said, they do go through some of the expert master classes, stuff like that, but not a ton of them. And then you get your interest. You have alignment, languages, and studies. Studies. A study can focus on a nation or region, culture, celebrate adventure. Each study should be broad enough to find periodic use of the setting story, but narrow enough to enter and not to enter into every conversation. So basically, when you and the GM agree that a study relates to a skill check, you gain +1. Little subtle thing. You start with your native language, a study of your native culture and homeland, and 2 additional interests of your choice. So your interest, like I said, you can choose an interest in an alignment, but you can never have more than one at a time. You can have multiple languages. It's very versatile. And then action dice can be used to boost your die roll, boost your defense, activate threats, activate an opponent's error, or you can even heal your character with them. I'm not going to delve too deep into the subsystems because the system can get a little crunchy. Like I said, it's very similar to 3.5 though. Purchasing skills are done the same way they are in 3.5. You're going to get certain skills that are class skills. You can be able to put up 4 ranks in them. Blah blah blah. You can take your 10, take your 20, all that fun stuff. Skills are pretty simplistic in this game. It's actually probably the easiest part of the game if you've played previous editions of 3.x. Honestly, it really is. It starts getting a little weirder. Again, feats are the same way. Feats work just like they do in 3.x. Take a feat, you gain the ability off the feat. They're going to have prerequisites, and they have a ton of feats in this game. This game is very much feat focused because just like 3.x, it's feat focused. It focuses on the skills and the feats. You can take all kinds of different ridiculous stuff in there. There's species specific feats that you can take. There's magical feats and spell casting feats, and like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into it because if you play 3.x, you understand a lot of this stuff. So, and you get your casting. Of course, you get your spells. Spells in this game work a little bit different in that you have spell points. It's not fancying, so that's going to be a big difference for this game. As far as physically the game goes, it is spell focused or spell point focused rather than fancying. So, an arcane caster makes a check to cast spells he knows and may use the possible cast to learn spells without having the ability to use them. You can only make one spell casting per check per round and must be able to speak aloud to do so. So you actually have to roll to pull off spells. And it depends on the level of the spell. It's, again, not very complicated. The spell descriptions in this game, there's plenty of spells. A lot of them pulled directly from the SRD. Lots of them have similar effects to SRD spells. Buffing your strength, things like that. They have to retitle them because of copyright, but like buff instead of bear strength, kind of thing. Anything that they could keep the same, they did try to keep the same. But instead of calling it like cure greater wounds, they call it cure wounds 3. It's kind of simplistic. Magic is really interesting in this game, in that it's very awesome how things are used. I'll get into in a second kind of how some of the differences from 3.5, because right now I just want to kind of introduce the system to you. Again, a lot of this stuff winds up being very, very similar to 3.x. You have your You have your standard equipment. Uh, you get, goods, services are similar. A lot of this game, like I said, I'm trying to figure out what to dive into here because it's so much like 3.5. There's not a need to dig too deep into some of this. You get magical items that work the same as they do in 3.5, very similar to 3.5. You know, armor piercing, things like that. Uh, Armor in this game does grant armor, or can grant damage reduction. There are black powder weapons listed in this book, which is a nice change of pace. Uh, and then there's weapon upgrades that you can take uh, as well, without getting into it. But like, you can get them crafted different ways. So like craftsmanship, for example, you can have it crafted by a goblin, which gives it +2 points of sneak attack damage. And it weighs less, but it costs 50% more. There's renown as well, so you're going to have renown in this game, which allows you to get favors and things like that. That's a whole subsystem for this game. Again, I'll get into that here in a second, because there's a little bit, like I said, some of this is a little different in 3.5. I'm trying not to delve all the way into the deeper parts of it. Magic items, again, mostly work like they do in 3.5. Combat, very, very, very simple, very similar to 3.0, 3.5. It does use the 5-10 rule, so every odd diagonal is 10 feet rather than 5 feet, which is kind of weird and stupid. So you start with the defense of 10. They don't have an armor class; they have a defense. Taking injury is very similar. Character damage, standard character damage. Taking threats and your critical hits. There's massive damage rolls. Take 50 points or more of damage in a single hit. You make a fortitude save. You die instantly otherwise. Blah, blah, blah. Damage resistance. So you can get damage reduction. Again, guys, a lot of this is going to be old hat. Healing is pretty simple. You can spend action dice, though, to heal. A character can spend and roll any number of his action dice to reduce his accumulated damage by the total result of the dice spent. That's a standard character. A special character, which is a player character, is considered, can reroll any number of action dice to regain vitality or wounds, which is something that's different because you have both vitality and wounds in this system. But again, going to get into that here in a second, some of the differences. Honestly, guys, going through the book is not complicated to go through, because if you played 3X, if you played Pathfinder, a lot of this stuff is really kind of common to you. Now this is where it starts getting a little different. Monsters are a lot different in this game, and this is kind of important to show. To kind of show you, if I can. Let me see if I can screen share. Can't share screen. There we go. Okay, so I want to share this screen real fast with you guys. Okay, so this screen right here is the Fantasy Craft NPC traits table. What it is everything is done on a rating of 1 to 10, and depending on the threat level you assign it, it's going to determine what the bonus is. So what you can do in this game is you could take the same group of kobolds and have them fight a group at level 1 and then again at level 5, and they can be just as dangerous by tweaking their threat level and their grade. So saying a first level party fighting 4 kobolds might be grade 1, threat level 1. So they'd have a +0 to their defensive initiative. But that same group later on, you run into 4 kobolds at level 5, you can say, oh, well, now they're threat level 3 and grade 3, so they're now +2 to both. It allows ultimate flexibility, and wounds are pretty simple. Medium creatures are equal to their constitution score. So, competence, health, all of this stuff is determined. by these tables. And if you ever read one of their adventures, you'll see these tables. And then they have qualities um, that you assign them. So NPC class tables, you know, you get to assign. You can assign classes to NPCs, uh, and it gets really unique because you can make super unique monsters uh, without without needing to really do a full build for the monster. And they actually have an NPC monster generator that you can punch all those numbers in and it'll generate the actual box for you. So that's really cool. And then, like I said, you get extraordinary attacks. You can give them extraordinary attacks, giving them XP value, preparing them. This chapter on building monsters is probably one of the best chapters I've ever read. Um, and here's an example character, an apothecary. So you see down here, it has all his stats and everything, and then it gets into, oh, look, he's initiative 1, attack 1, defense 4, resilience 3, health 3, composure 3, skills crafting 4, yada, yada. And it tells you what it is. And so what you'll do is, if you want that apothecary to be more dangerous, for example, you give him a threat level of 5. If he's really easy, you give him a threat level 1. And you adjust them based on that, all that information. So reading a stat block in this game for NPCs is a little weird because you don't, and it gives, like I said, everything that you need in the actual chapter there for building good NPCs and stuff. They do have a small bestiary. It's not huge. Honestly, give you a suggestion. It actually suggests this as well. Really if you want to play this game, play around with the monsters they give you. Don't just throw stock monsters at them. Yeah, so they're really kind of creepy and weird. Because, like I said, you can make them as dangerous or as safe as you need them based on your party composition and all of that. So FantasyCraft does a really good job of doing that. The world itself, the game itself just does a great job. And as you can see, this section on monsters is pretty detailed, pretty thick. It's not a very simple chapter. It is one of the largest sections of the book. And you can give, and then, like I said, and it even gets into OGL conversion. So, like, you can convert monsters fairly easily from like 3.5 adventures into FantasyCraft. So if there's a good 3.5 adventure you want to run, say Sunless Citadel or something, pretty easy. Okay, don't need to show this anymore. So, stop. Okay. World building is really interesting in this game. It gives you great ideas for genres, how to develop the genre that you want. The GMing chapter in this book is actually really, really useful. Using alignments, how miracles are impact the world, casting, getting path spells. All of that stuff is in here. It talks a lot about how the world works and how priests work. Can people even cast spells in your world? How does it impact it? What species are part of your world? And how to build your factions? Everything gets talked about in this. It does a great job of it, really does. And then the last thing that you get is what's called campaign qualities. Campaign qualities are awesome because they allow you to add different aspects to the game to allow you to get a more specific feel for your world. So, for example, ripped physique is the armor of a real hero. A real hero needs special characters gain lethal and subdual resistance equal to their strength modifier minimum 0. So you can get beefy heroes, bold heroes, complex heroes, dramatic pacing, fast attributes. Each player character gains one bonus attribute occur level 3 in every 3 levels rather than the fourth. You get faster feats. You know, you can gain levels faster. Luck abounds. Luck plays a significant role in the world. Action dice increase by 1 die type. Miracles become you can make miracles a permanent part of your world, which is really cool, actually, by the way. Rare magic items, so you can make a low magic world very easily because it becomes part of the mechanics of the world. And it does a great job describing all of that. The GMing section in this book is really worth looking at. If not for this game, in general, it does a great job of just really building out how to build great adventures. And if you've never played Crafty Games, Crafty Games has always done a great job of world building and talking about it. And then it gets into how to apply, reputation and instant rewards and experience properly, and how to handle all of that kind of stuff. Handling magic items, what you can get, and all that kind of fun stuff. And there are tables galore in this book, which is great because in a 3.5x type game, 3.x type game, organization is a big thing. It really is. There's tips for handling the game itself is really good. It talks about using GM action dice, awarding action dice back to your players because they get starting action dice based on the character level and all of that, and managing difficulties and all of that stuff. And it's just a really good chance, really good look at that stuff. This book is amazing. This is one of the better games that I've put out and read before. I really enjoy it. Talks about using morale, which is something most 3.x games don't talk about. Talks about giving your characters different factors and NPCs cheating death. What happens if you think you killed an NPC and you haven't, kind of thing. And that's the last of the book. As far as the characters go, though, incredibly well built worlds, incredibly well built system. The book itself is very well laid out, and it is a very complicated system, but it's also very unique. I'll make an argument that Fantasy Craft stands out for me among 3.x type games because it wants you to do so much as the GM versus so much being handed to you. As a player, it allows you to do Clay, you don't get to make fun of me for being an old person. But yeah, if you get a chance to actually see the system in action, it's very versatile. It is all about choice. Which, again, if you ever played SpyCraft was a lot about the choices you made with characters. It does not reward min-maxing either, which is a kind of unique thing for this type of game for the 3.0, 3.5 Pathfinder type play, because the GM can adjust things on the fly. They can raise the threat level of monsters if they feel like you're having too easy of a time. They can adjust the stat blocks as they need based on how you respond to things, which is a nice change of pace if you're a old school player, especially as a GM. Overall, Fantasy Craft is just one of those games that got put way under the radar, and kind of unfortunately, Crafty Games kind of stopped printing RPGs, even SpyCraft, but they really went under the radar. They deserve a lot more attention than they got. They came out in the height of the glut right as 4th edition was kind of coming out. This is when this game came out. So keep that in mind. It was part of the glut, and that's part of the reason it kind of went under the radar. But if you're looking for a crunchy 3.5 type system that allows a lot of flexibility and a lot of versatility. Fantasy Craft is where it's at. Physically, the book is well done. It's solid. Uh, it's 400 plus pages just for the core book, and then they have, like I said, they've got several other books available. They have the Call to Arms available. Let me double check something real quick for you guys. I think it is still up on drive-thru, and if it is, I will put it in a comment and pin that comment for you, because I forgot to do that in my description there. Let's see, good little fun games, RPGs. They put a lot of stuff out over the years. You know what? This is just gonna be a pain. It's like I said, I'll have to look here in a second and see if I can figure out if it is available as a still available on drive-thru or not. It appears it is. So let me see real quick. Yes, it is still available on drive-thru RPG. It comes in bundles, just so you know. You can get it in bundles. Like I said, I own every book for it, so it's just, like I said, it's just good. It's just a good collection. It's a great collection to get, worth looking at. The core book's worth looking at, if for nothing else. Like I said, some of the ideas you can glean from it, because it does a really good job of advice for how to build worlds and stuff. So I found it. I did actually find that. Thank you very much, Clay. I had to do it backwards because it was being stubborn on their website. They've changed their website around a little bit. Used to just have to go on their website and find old RPGs and blah blah blah. And now they're producing so much stuff. But either way, can't recommend this game enough. Really can't. If you guys are looking for something to get into, if you're looking to get into a more complicated, more detail-oriented game, it's definitely worth playing. And if not, like I said, there are other games that do similar things that are a little less complicated, but I definitely enjoy Fantasy Craft. So either way, guys, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns below. As always, follow 3 rules, no ad hominems, no picking fights, no leaving college dissertations. Other than that, guys, we do hope you have fun, and we do hope to see you guys around the game table.